Bobby Ladd, you are, for today, even though you was one of the best street cops I ever known, you and your partner Tim Brenner, rest in peace, your best friend. We're going to use you on this show, our episode today, to talk mainly about some of the Mexican gangs, because you was also good with working now. Know it's a story that happened at this location.
Yeah, the story I'm going to talk about involves two gangs in the city of Compton. One was a Hispanic gang. They were called the CV70s, or Compton Varrio Setentas. They were one of our larger Hispanic gangs located in the central part, right in this area of the city. The other gang was actually three gangs combined into one, and it was another gang right in this area. They were called Acacia Block Crips, Farm Dog Crips, and Spooktown Crip. These three gangs aligned themselves together because they had to fight the larger gang, the CV70s. And they are also at the time at war with the Nutty Block Crips, who is another one of our larger gangs in the city of Compton. So they aligned themselves together and called themselves ATF, Acacia Town and Farms. So they aligned themselves together to combat not only the CV70s, but the other gangs they're at war with. In order to fully understand what happened here today, I have to go back like a year real quick. It was right after the 92 riots, and in 93 we had two police officers murdered, right? So Compton, we as street cops, we were reeling, we were rolling hard, man. We had gangs battling each other all over the city, and right about this time in 1993, you think it couldn't get any worse in Compton? Well, it did. Mexican Mafia, who we all know is a prison gang, right? They put out an edict to the street gangs to, one, don't do any drive-by shooting because too many kids were getting killed. And two, they wanted to take over the drug trade and kick the blacks out of the neighborhood. Well, I shake my head because that was got to be one of the dumbest orders I've ever heard in my life. Because if you know the Crips and Bloods in Compton like Reggie and I knew them, you think that they were just going to say, I'm going to hand you over my territory? Oh, sure, we'll leave. You can have all our money in our territory. We're just going to leave. See you later, right? You know that wasn't going to happen. So we start having a war right here with the ATFs and the CV70s. They start fighting with each other, and you got to remember, these guys, they grew up together. They lived in the same neighborhoods. They went to the same schools. They grew up with each other. Now they're fighting each other in the same neighborhoods, shooting and killing each other, right? And we start having, it almost turned into a race war. We start getting graffiti on the walls. Not only were they fighting and shooting with each other, the graffiti on the walls, we drive around, we go into the Mexican streets, the CV70, their territory. We go into the black streets and they'd say fuck tacos. So it really turned into a race war. So on this particular day, it was in June of 1994, there was two veterano CV70. Their name was Boxer and Bull. Now these guys been around a long time. They were veteranos. They were definitely the shot callers within the CV70 gangs, right? So in this particular, it was 11 o'clock in the morning. They were driving around. I remember they had a red, I think it was convertible Impala. I'm not positive. That don't really matter. But it was a red Impala. And they were cruising around. And they came over to this street right here. They used to have mailboxes right down here. So they pulled up alongside the mailbox because they were going to drop some letters off to the homies in prison, right? Little did they know they were being followed by some ATF gang members, mostly consistent of Acacia Block Crips. It was a van, and there was four of them in there. Two of them were armed, one with an AK-47 and the other one with a 9mm of some sort. Well, unbeknown to Boxer and Bull, they're just talking, shooting the shit. Van pulls up behind them, and one of the guys gets out of point-blank range with the assault rifle and just unleashes fury on him. Just empties the clip, while the other guy, he's shooting out of the car at these guys, right? So they empty their clips into these poor guys at point-blank range, and it was just a bloody mess. The van takes off, police officers get to the scene, and these guys were just riddled with bullets. I mean, the interior of the car was covered in blood. brain matter was on the windshield and parts of the skull was in the street. I mean, it was just a bloody, bloody scene, right? Boxer and Bull are murdered. The van gets away. They give the case to my partner, Timmy Brennan, and myself. I think it was the next day or the day after, we found that stolen van that they used in the drive-by. And we arrested one of the guys that was actually in the car, but wasn't one of the shooters. So we got him to talk and tell the whole story. And what happened was, earlier that morning, one of the ATF gang members, he went outside the city early in the morning to commit a robbery at a convenience store. It wasn't in the city of Compton. Well, a Mexican shot and killed him. So they were sitting around and they were like all pissed off and they wanted to go out and kill a Mexican, right? So they loaded up their weapons, and he said they first saw Boxer and Bull at Willowbrook and Alondra, which is the next street over. And they waited for their time to attack him, and they followed him right over here to at the mailboxes and then just lit him up. So we were subsequently able to arrest everyone in the vehicle, and they did get filed with the district attorney's office. But to this day, the war between the Hispanics and the blacks are still ongoing.
So do you say that the reason for this shooting, you think, really is ultimately come back on orders from the prison, the hand, the leaders of the Mexican mafias? There's a hand that pretty much make all the decisions that come out of the prison.
Absolutely, yeah. You think that the Mexican mafia is just a prison gang, but they have so much power here out in the streets, because if you live the gang mentality, what is it? You're either gonna die or you're gonna go to prison. So if you don't do what they say, and you end up going to jail or to prison, that's where they're going to deal with you. So they have a tremendous amount of power here out in the streets that people don't realize.
What I found so interesting, and Bobby talked about it earlier, was the fact that this group we talking about that did this gruesome murder and stuff, they used to, on Johnson Street, the Mexican would sell a heron on one side of the street in front of some apartment, and literally across the street on the other side would be the blacks selling cocaine, rocks, and all that kind of stuff. And like you said, they were friends. They were even had girlfriends that were black, and all kind of interaction. They were like that. But that edict was so strong that they couldn't not comply with it, because if they got arrested and went to prison, they'd be dealt with if they didn't. So that's what turned it to get as bad as it is till today.
Because I remember when I was working the streets of Compton, that during that time, they had put an order out that anybody wearing a white t-shirt to kill. And they had all the young black guys scared running around to wear white t-shirts. During that time, approximately, how many shootings you think went back and forth between the ATF and the CV70s?
I'm just saying, after this Boxer and Bull shooting, there was at least 3 to 4 murders and at least 15 attempted murders. Were in Brennan and Reggie and myself, we did a big 20 location search warrant in order to try to quell the violence that was going on and get some of the weapons off the street. So just in a few weeks, there was 3 or 4 murders and 15 shootings between this guy. They kind of tell you the violence that was happening at the time.